Not a Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the East or the West, not of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. I'm not an entity in this world or the next, did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is the placeless, a trace of the traceless. Neither body or soul, I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and that one called to and know, first, last, outer, inner, only that breath, breathing, human being. It's from our beloved friend, Jalaluddin Rumi. And I thought here in this space of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, not this, not that, not this, and all of that. And part of why I love our particular Sufi order is it is also that way. We're not just anything, we're everything. As I like to say, and as it's been said by people smarter and greater than me, all roads lead to home. And our particular road starts with Hazrat Inayat Khan. I mentioned him earlier, sang his words in that opening song. And I want to give you just a little history lesson because, you know, sometimes it's confusing about, you know, what is this Sufism thing that we're talking about? So in 1910, Hazrat Inayat Khan was given the assignment by his teacher, Sayyid Abu Hashim Madani, that he was to go to the West in order to harmonize the wisdom of the East with the wisdom of the West, and in so doing, bring about more love, more harmony, and more beauty into the world. He came with his brothers and his cousins. Together they were known as the Royal Hindustani Musicians, and they arrived in San Francisco. There they gave many concerts, but at that time the Western ear was not as accustomed to their exotic rhythms or scales as perhaps they are now. So Inayat Khan received the guidance that he should start speaking. And in his words, he abandoned his music at that point, which meant he only practiced 4 hours a day. So, as a musician, I know what that means. He began sharing the wisdom that he had learned at the foot of his murshid or his teacher and at his grandfather's house in Baroda with the people of San Francisco and eventually throughout the whole United States and into Europe, where it took root as the Sufi Order International. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Sufis, and there are many entry points to this particular school of thought. Years ago, I studied with a Turkish Sufi sheikh who admonished me by saying, if you're a Sufi, you're a Muslim. Okay, so let's look at that word Muslim. What does it actually mean? A Muslim means a believer. So, sure, I'm a Sufi and I'm a Muslim, but probably not in the traditional way that most people want to think about that. Classical Sufism did in fact spring out of Islam, and like Kabbalah is the mystical arm of Islam, like Kabbalah is the mystical arm of Judaism, Sufism is the mystical arm of Islam. But for Inayat Khan, who lived in his grandfather's house in northern India, he was in a place where all of the world's traditions mixed. There were Jews, there were Christians, there were Muslims, there were Hindus, there were Buddhists. They were all there together, learning music and studying mysticism. And there he learned and was able to recognize that the essence of all religions is one. And they all have a similar goal, like we sang in that song, to unite with, as the Sufi call it, the beloved, with God, with the universe, with life force. And in that way, we can find ways to harmonize, not only musically, but energetically and spiritually. During one of his times in San Francisco, Inayat Khan met with Samuel Lewis, who at that time was already recognized as a Zen Roshi and was a student of Papa Ram Dass and Mother Krishnabai. Sam had already seen Inayat Khan in a dream, and so he knew that he was his teacher. He took bayat, or initiation, and became one of the leading disciples in the United States, determined to spread this universal message of love, harmony, and beauty. In the late 1960s, Murshid Sam, Murshid just means teacher, Murshid Sam, who'd often struggled with health issues, was in the hospital, and there he had another dream where Khidr, the green man, came to Murshid Sam and said, "You will be the spiritual teacher of the hippies." To which Murshid Sam responded, "I don't like the hippies." And Khidr said, "I didn't ask you if you like them. They're yours." So he took on that assignment. And then in another dream, he had the inspiration to bring into being the dances of universal peace, or as many people know them as Sufi dances. And these are simple folk dances using sacred phrases from many of the world's traditions. They're done in a circle. We're going to do one later today. And this allows the dancers to connect somatically, relationally, and spiritually. These dances started out in a carport in a small neighborhood in San Francisco. And since then, they have spread throughout the world. And I checked in with our teacher, Mariam. They've even been danced in Antarctica. So on every single continent of the world. I found the Sufis at a very early age. I was incredibly blessed. I was searching for a spiritual home, and I was invited to a universal worship service held in a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn. That was before Brooklyn was cool. My first introductions to the teachings of Inayat Khan were in a blooming garden. I heard his words, and I knew that this was the path for me. I was then led up a spiral staircase to participate in my first universal worship, where the theme was the purpose of life. Purpose of life, as we all know it, is to live it, expressing the gifts that we have been given. As many of you may know or are learning, my gifts include singing, dancing, and storytelling. So imagine my delight to find a path that not only celebrates these practices, but uses them as tools to awaken each individual and humanity to the truth of who they truly are. In the 40 years since that day, I've had the honor to be initiated into several streams of Sufism. I now serve as a teacher, a guide, a dance leader, and a minister of the Universal Worship. Universal Worship is one of the most beautiful services. It is a service where we have many of the world's traditions all represented on a single altar. Candles are lit, scriptures are read, and we look to find ways in which we can all agree, which is especially beautiful, especially in times like this, where it's very easy to find ways where we differ. I still, after all these years, find solace, inspiration, and deep peace from this practice and this path. The primary message of both classical and universal Sufism can be summed up in the Arabic phrase, La ilaha illallahu. There is only God. Only God exists. There is no reality but this ultimate reality. And a second phrase, which is Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah, God, the universe, life force, is love, lover, and beloved. There is no separation. We are all that. As Leela and I have already said, we are so deeply grateful to all of you in this community who gave us the space to practice this weekend. We hope that you'll feel invited to come and share in our practice. As Bob mentioned, there are the dances the fourth Sunday of every month at CSL. There's also the practice of zikr, Sufi zikr, which is a practice of remembrance, which we remember who we are and to whom we belong, which is the first Thursday of the month over at Santa Cruz Yoga on the west side. We feel so blessed to have been here. We thank you for this opportunity to share. And I want to pass on the pulpit to our dear friend, Reverend Terra, who's going to say a little bit more of a personal experience of her time with our Sufis.
Yes, I have a personal story to tell. One that began with an invitation that led the way to caring for a broken heart. One that revealed a deep truth of longing and need that was fulfilled with song, movement, reverence, and ritual. All of this brought about profound healing and the ability to go on. I want to share this story with you. So it was around 2008 that the greatest challenge of my life as a parent began. The greatest challenge of our lives as parents, Scott and I. It's hard to tell the difference between teenage angst or the slow and steady progress of depression. That Evan, our precious and precocious boy, was struggling, and he started isolating himself in his room. He was fixated on his computer, neglecting food and his body. It was frightening and disorienting and unprecedented, and we did not know what to do. Dear friends of ours and former fellowship members, Janice and Robert, saw our grief and our consternation and invited us to join them for an evening. They thought it would help if it could move through us what was happening, to help us be grounded and centered. And this was the first time we attended Dances of Universal Peace. At the time, it was held at the El Palomar Ballroom in Santa Cruz. And the song leader was Leela, and the musician was James. Walking into that room with glittering twinkle lights and the mirrored wall covered with cloth was like stepping through a portal into a new realm. And it was stepping through a portal into a new realm. It felt otherworldly, kind of heavenly. And the careful teaching of the movements and the song, these simple dance steps in rhythm with others, these simple life and love affirming lyrics raised with other voices, looking into the eyes of people I have never met before, and them seeing my soul and me seeing theirs. In this circle, we held hands and we touched hearts, and I had never felt such an experience before and felt transformed. Janice and Robert were right. It was grounding and centering and a true blessing at a time of turmoil. It was a balm for our spirits as we traversed the challenging and uncertain landscape of Evan's suffering while trying to keep a peaceful home for our daughter, Camille. So as time progressed, Scott and I continued to attend dances of universal peace. We learned more songs and dances. We made new friends. We experienced the wondrous transformation that comes with meditative movement and reverent song followed by prayerful silence. Some of you old-timers may recall that for about 30 years, dance leader Janayad and his wife Aranisia led Dances of Universal Peace the first Thursday of the month here in this sanctuary, long before the interior was finished. And they filled the walls and the ceiling and all of this wood and space with sacred songs, loving dances, and continued beloved community. Just as we did at the Santa Cruz Sufi Dance and Caravan this weekend. Attendees from all around California made their way here and spent Friday and Saturday in the fellowship, learning from an esteemed visiting teacher and beloved local teachers and beloved local musicians, a harp, the guitar, a flute, and drums. We danced, we meditated, we chanted holy names. One exquisite exercise was to breathe in and recite these Arabic words, Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. I want you to do that with me for a minute. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. One more time. Ya Shafi, Ya Kafi. It was very special for me to participate in these dances in this space, my home sanctuary, my place of solace. And I can still feel the expansiveness of my heart with this nourishment, the aliveness and vibration that will sustain me for a long time. And as they say in Arabic, alhamdulillah. All this to say, my friends, we are ritual beings before we are rational beings. There's an aspect of evolution in humanity that thrives on this kind of ecstatic and transforming experience. One that comes through a willingness to be led, to dive deep into music, prayer, and embodiment. And this includes the natural world, of course, and its sweet companionship with others, other fellow travelers with touch and witness. All this to say, all those years ago, stepping into the portal, into another realm, I found a way to tend my soul at a time that was so challenging. It was a way to recharge and regenerate and be able to attend to what I needed to attend when I got home. At the most challenging time in my life, Universal Sufism was literally a godsend. And I believe that it was a significant part of how Scott and I managed to survive. I am forever grateful for the insight of caring friends who led troubled souls to the dances of universal peace. I am forever grateful for the trust and willingness to give it a try, to set aside ego or story or apprehension, and to let my heart be filled and my spirit be lifted. And I am forever grateful for the lineage of the illuminated souls that brought these dancing prayers to us. We are the recipients of a great gift. Blessed be this gift, this dance of a spiritual practice.